Good afternoon. This is the May 27th, 2021 meeting of the Policy Management Committee. I'm Pat O'Neill. I'm chair of the committee. I'm going to begin by asking my colleagues from the board to introduce themselves. We have a large number of MCPS staff joining us this afternoon, and I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves as they begin their presentations or answering questions. So I'll begin with Dr. Daca.
Good afternoon, Judy Daca.
Good afternoon, Rebecca Swandrowski.
Good afternoon, Nick Asante.
So staff has requested that we modify the agenda or reverse it because various staff members have to join other meetings this afternoon. So we're going to begin with the items related to policy ACA, the various issues and questions and public comments, and then we'll follow it. I think the order will then be FA, naming, and then followed by the two sexual harassment policies. But we have the informational summary from the April 27th Policy Management Committee meeting. Did anyone have any additions or corrections? Nope, you're good. Okay, Ms. Williams, do you want to lead us through ACA?
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you, Mrs. O'Neill. I'm Stephanie Williams, General Counsel for Montgomery County Public Schools. We will start the agenda today for the discussion of public comments and recommended changes for policy ACA, non-discrimination, equity, and cultural proficiency. So this policy is before the committee for a second time. We're here today to consider a few edits that are made to be in addition to the edits that were discussed at the last meeting. Two of the edits are relatively technical, and one set of edits is a bit more substantive. So since this committee met in April, the board has continued to receive comments on policy ACA. These comments have been particularly directed at the definition of anti-racism and related references to this terminology throughout the document. This includes comments that we've received as recently as this morning that are not available to the public at this time, but have been distributed and will be distributed to board members. They just came in after all of the materials for the meeting had been distributed. So the board will have access to all comments received. But I wanted to share with you that we have, and those comments have come from staff as well as community members and a couple of students. The tenor of the comments have range the full spectrum. For example, we've had a few comments that speak to the fact that anti-racism, the definition rather of anti-racism should be stronger, and there should be more clarity provided regarding how the board intends to eradicate racism from the system. Other comments have addressed the fact that anti-racism silences dissenting views and believes that when such terminology is used, it leads to a cancel culture and alleges that such references are counter to American democracy. And we have had comments that are fully supportive of the language as currently written in the document. And as the board is aware, the district is currently undergoing an anti-racist audit to learn about the implications of racism throughout the district. Now, we understand that the board is fully committed to working collaboratively with our community to build together the work of equity, non-discrimination, and so equity and non-discrimination. So for those reasons, the staff recommends that the committee provide additional time for the community's engagement in the anti-racist audit to further inform any amendments that may be necessary to this particular policy that specifically addresses racism on access, opportunities, and equitable outcomes for students. At this time, staff is recommending that the Board Policy Management Committee move forward with compliance-related amendments to policy ACA. These amendments will bring the policy into alignment with COMAR, the chapter specifically related to educational equity. It will bring us in alignment with federal language regarding English language learners. That's one of the additional edits we're going to talk about. And we've also provided some language that more fully represents the fall of 2020 board resolution regarding hate symbols, imagery, and language. So let's take a look at the policy now. When you look at the policy, you will see gray highlights. Those gray highlights are all the recommended changes to the policy that have been made, are being made starting with the April presentation when they were just focused on the comments we had received at that time. But you will also see in the document comments where we have a yellow arrow beside them. And those are the comments that I'm going to focus on today, because those are the comments that are being recommended subsequent to the last time you've seen this document. So those edits start on page 3 of policy ACA. At this time, we're recommending the removal of lines 81 through 87. As I referenced in my opening comments, the definition of anti-racist and anti-racism are the comments that the sections that we are primarily recommending removal until there is time so that we have time for further collaboration with community stakeholders and others and complete the audit. Similarly, on page 5 of the document, we are recommending the removal of lines 142 through 146, which is the definition of racism. Again, these terms are being recommended for removal while we further explore and engage with our community stakeholders. On page 6 of the document, this is one of the technical edits that I referenced. This is language that more fully represents the language that was in the resolution from the fall. The prohibition, so it says the board prohibits the use of language and/or the display of images and symbols that promote hate and can be reasonably expected to cause substantial disruption to school or district operations. We're recommending the addition of this prohibition will not be used, however, to prevent responsible discussion of such language, images, or symbols for educational purposes. The next recommended change is on page 9, starting at line 261. And we are modifying the language that previously existed that referenced English language learners mastering academic English to work toward empowering emergent multilinguals / English learners to master social and academic English using their first language and culture as assets. Mrs. Hazel is here to discuss that language change for you when we get to the discussion section. On page 10, you will see edits shaded in gray and with our yellow arrows on the side, starting at lines 288 through 296. Those are redactions to align with the removal of the references to anti-racism and racism that we have already discussed. Similarly, on page 15, at lines 433 to 434, we've removed language that aligns with the definitions we've already discussed removing. And those are all of the edits that I was planning to highlight for this discussion.
I don't know whether any of my colleagues have any comments. I believe that These are white-wise changes pending the conclusion of the anti-racist audit and further community discussion on the issue of emergent multilingual English language learners. We had a conversation at the last meeting, and the only variation here is really the addition of the multi-language learners. So I'm going to move that we accept these proposed changes in block. Is there a second to that?
Second.
And all those in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. So with these changes, we will move it forward to the full board. I don't know whether Ms. Hazel did want to pop in and give comments briefly about, because we did have rather robust conversations about, and expanded it beyond just English language learners. We added in the emergent learner. Nikki, I don't know whether you want to add anything.
No, just after consulting with my team, we just wanted to be consistent with the title of our new department. And so we just pick up the word language, and everything else is fairly consistent with what we discussed. So we agree.
And I think it's also important that on the issue of the symbols of hate, that language allows our teachers to show or discuss in context, various symbols, swastikas or nooses or language in a historical context. So I think that's an important correction or change to this language.
I think you all did a very good job of making the changes that were discussed and reflecting community comments and all of that. And I'm very supportive of removing those definitions until we finish the equity thing. So,
okay, so I think then is the next piece is a discussion about how the implementation, or Ms. Williams, I leave that to you, but the policy will come to the full board in June.
Yes. Yes, thank you. And yes, moving right along to the discussion of the discipline implications, and as well as communications with our students and community of the resolution banning the hate symbols and other aspects of the policy. Mr. Everett Davis and Dr. Karen Cruz are with us to lead the discussion on this topic, as well as Mrs. Shella Cherry. And I'm not sure if Mr. Cram has joined us just yet, but Mrs. Cherry is here and Mr. Cram may be joining us to support this discussion. So I will turn it over to Mr. Davis and Dr. Cruz.
Thank you, Ms. Williams, and good afternoon, everyone. Everett Davis, Director of Student Family and School Services, as well as International Admissions and Enrollment. And I am thankful to be here this afternoon on behalf of our associate, Ms. Rubin. And also, as Ms. Williams said, I will be co-presenting along with my colleague, Dr. Cruz, who we will hear from in just a moment. We also have several colleagues, as Ms. Williams mentioned, who will help us to support at the end of our presentation with the discussion and also with question answering. So again, thank you for this opportunity to share the discipline implications for use of hate symbols. And at this point, I will turn it over to Dr. Cruz. If we could have the presentation, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Davis. I'm very happy to be here. And if you could advance to the next slide. And next slide. So I want to start off our conversation about hate symbols, images, and language with first sharing with you information about our Tier 1 summer training. We are currently, Student and Family Support and Engagement is providing a variety of professional learning opportunities this summer and also throughout the school year that will really focus on a couple of things. One, our new SEL curriculum, and our SEL curriculum was actually just approved yesterday through the board. And we will begin our training this summer, and we're using a cohort model. And so each of the cohorts, first starting with cohort 1 this summer, will complete 3 parts of the training, all on the new curriculum. And then we will have all of our subsequent cohorts completing the trainings in year 2 and year 3. We are also making sure that all of our staff are receiving training on restorative justice and restorative practices. And so we're going to start with basically making sure all staff have an overview of what restorative justice and restorative practices actually are, and getting that definition and grounded in what restorative practices are and how they can use restorative practices in their discipline. And then also we're going to do more intense work with our middle school and high school teams around restorative practice. And we're using a hybrid approach. Some of the training will be asynchronous and some of the training will be synchronous for the year. So if you could move to the next slide. So our student code of conduct, as you know, does not currently mention discipline related to hate symbols. However, we do have guidance listed for bullying and disruption, et cetera. These are all areas that may be appropriate for us to include some guidance on hate symbols and images. For example, when we talk about disruption, we know that, if a student has a specific symbol that's on a backpack, and they may not say anything, but it may get a lot of students upset, and there's a protest in the cafeteria that disrupts the day. Then that's when we know that might be something that we could add into the language with disruption. And then also when we talk about bullying, we know that in that same situation, if there's a student that has a symbol on a backpack, they may use that for bullying, and they may be bullying a student or threatening a student in the school. And so we recognize this. Next slide. So when we think about disciplinary responses, we want a response that considers and addresses all of those who are harmed by a hate bias incident. We want the response to provide an education to the alleged offender, and we want to provide a sense of healing to the school community. So restorative justice continues to be a first and primary response. Restorative practices really helps us examine the situation in a supportive environment while working to repair harm in a way that is meaningful to those who are affected. We have a continuum of restorative practices that we use in MCPS that includes community circles, culturally responsive instruction, and intentional relationship building strategies. However, for those incidents that are severe, we consider all disciplinary levels of response, including level 5, which involves long-term administrative supports, out-of-school exclusionary and referral responses. Next slide. We are currently in the process of updating our student guidelines to include a statement that emphasizes the board prohibiting hate language and symbols that will cause a disruption to the school or district. We recognize the code of conduct provides guidance on a variety of student infractions, and we also know it is critical that language and symbols that promote hate are specifically lifted up within the code of conduct. Next slide. In updating the student guidance, we have offices across MCPS that are working together to make sure that intentional language is written into all documents that guide the behavior of students, staff members, and the community. Next slide. Here you will see a consideration for expanding the current language under other mitigated or aggravating circumstances. And the code of conduct We will further update to guide principals to consider the presence of hate language and or symbols when deciding on an ultimate disciplinary response. Next slide. Another consideration includes adding a descriptor to the disruption section with disciplinary responses spanning from levels 1 to 5. Here is an example of language that could be included as a footnote. Next slide. Now I will turn it over to my colleague, Mr. Davis, to discuss addressing hate bias incidents.
Thank you, Dr. Cruz. And as far as addressing hate bias incidents, it is a cyclical process that can be thought of in 3 different buckets, which you see here: preventative actions, responsive actions, and restorative actions. And as you can see from this graphic, these actions work in tandem. Next slide, please. So to start off with responsive actions, what is done when an incident occurs and how do we respond? And so as you can see here, our colleagues in school support and improvement, as well as student welfare and compliance, serve as the leads in this portion. You can see the steps are listed there as far as filling out the bullying, harassment, intimidation form, reporting that to our colleagues in Montgomery County Police Department, and triaging with our behavioral threat assessment team. Again, working with our colleagues in school support and improvement, conducting an investigation with the appropriate form listed there, all that we ensure student safety, and also we must communicate through a communication plan as well. Excuse me. Next slide, please. So after the incident has occurred, it's critical that there is a restorative component in which our office, so you heard Dr. Cruz mention this earlier in the presentation, Student Family Support and Engagement takes the lead. An incident meeting is convened, which includes admin, security, either the core leadership team, as well as the director. And based on this meeting, the following strategies or restorative actions may be employed, and they can be individually or a combination thereof. And just to name a few, I know you can read them there, but the study circles, restorative justice, whether we're having diversity, inclusion dialogues, engaging our community, and definitely do not want to forget about our mental health supports. Next slide, please. In addition to responsive and restorative actions, what do we do to prevent hate bias incidents? Preventative actions are led by our equity unit at the beginning of the school year, as well as continuously throughout the school improvement planning process. Preventative actions should include various stakeholders, our students, our staff, our parents, our community, and may include such examples as heat maps, school climate questionnaires, creating a school hate bias plan, and identifying ongoing activities to bring together the student body. Next slide, please. So we have talked about the process of how to address hate bias incidents through responsive, restorative, and preventative actions, but we have not defined them. So in order to continue our discussion, it is critical that we reference a common definition, and you can see this definition here. I'm not going to read it to you. I'll pause for just a moment for everyone to read through it, but I did want to elevate several pieces of it that definitely resonated with me. Incidents based on actual or perceived personal characteristics, or other legally or constitutionally protected attributes or affiliations. And again, pause just for a moment so that you can take a look at that. Next slide, please. Finally, I would like to outline the process for reporting hate bias incidents. Although I've already outlined the responsive, again, restorative and preventative actions, which you see at the end of this flow chart, I wanted to do a little bit of back mapping with you to explain what happens prior to those actions. And as you can see, the process begins with an incident complaint that's made by a community stakeholder. Next, the bullying harassment form that I mentioned previously is submitted to the principal or to the designee. A verbal report of crimes is made to our colleagues in the Montgomery County Police Department. Talked about the behavioral threat assessment. Then the principal contacts school support and improvement, creates an incident report, which includes notifying our colleagues in student welfare and compliance. And then the principal or the designee investigates the incident. While this occurs, it's extremely important to elevate that the safety plan is implemented to ensure the student's safety. And of course, we're going to contact the parent or guardian. Then student welfare and compliance will record and monitor the incident. And as I shared at the beginning, we're back to the 3 actions that I described: responsive, restorative, and preventative actions. So at this time, we can go to the next slide. This concludes, Ms. O'Neill, our presentation. As I shared at the beginning, Dr. Cruz and I are very fortunate to be joined by several of our colleagues from several of the offices that were mentioned during the presentation. I know Ms. Williams mentioned we have Ms. Cherry with us. We also have Mr. Edmondson, as well as Mr. Cram on the line, and we're prepared to answer your questions at this time. Thank you.
So I have a question, and sort of, I think it goes back to the definition. And as I was thinking about it, I know at the outset when we did the new business item, we were specifically thinking about symbols such as, the Confederate flag, a noose, the swastikas, all of which have been problematic from time to time within our schools. I was thinking, though, about the issue about gang symbols. And while they're not specifically a hate symbol, they're maybe an intimidating symbol, or, used as threats, or, intimidation against some students or individuals. Does that definition, I think under incidents, capture it? Because you speak about the specific constitutionally protected. Anyway, I don't know whether I'm clear on that, but in the past we've had intimidation by gang members from time to time. Anyway, does that work within this language?
Mrs. O'Neill, I'm sorry, Mr. Davis, if you could give us a moment to look at that. We have the policy on gang reporting, gang activity, and I think we have language in there that speaks to the symbols and so forth, and we could pull that forward and speak to that more directly.
Okay. Does that need to be referenced in as a related policy in ACA? Or I don't know whether it is. I'd have to look, but it seems as if it is also tangentially related to this issue.
Okay.
The recognizing reporting policy for gangs and gang-like behavior is tied in directly with the bullying, intimidation, and harassment, and it does align itself with hate based on symbols. However, I'm not sure, and I agree with you, maybe we need to put some of that language in ACA, because I don't think it specifically calls out gangs.
And I apologize that, until today, it had not come to mind, but can be disruptive to the school environment. And that is a separate policy, but it seems to me that it should also be referenced somehow in this policy. Or at least as a related entry. I don't know. Rebecca, do you have any questions or comments?
I do. Thank you. I appreciate this little presentation and the changes and the explanation. My one question is, I've been hearing from parents who were concerned about both inconsistencies in schools in terms of disciplinary actions or ways that we were addressing bullying or harassment of students based on hate and race and things like that. And I had spoken at one of the board meetings about sort of accelerating the 1 through 5 process of disciplinary actions if it was specifically related to a hate, I don't want to say crime, action. So you kind of sort of touched on it, but I'm not sure that I feel that there's still any real clarity as to whether it kind of, to me, it sort of read as though administration has the option of accelerating it, but doesn't necessarily need to. And I'd like some clarity on that. Anyone?
Yeah, we're trying to process the question.
Okay. Like,
yeah,
so
clarification on that. Each individual case that's reported of hate bias, whether it's a crime or not, goes through the same process, and the school administration is supported. And that's where we would bring in the director of the schools, as well as possibly Steve Neff's office or Mary Dempsey, who are very skilled with appeals and looking at disciplinary action through the code of conduct to make sure that we're all aligned with recommendations to the principal who ultimately makes decisions on discipline. But I think the process with which it starts is aligned.
Okay, so if a student or a parent comes in and says, I'm getting harassed, I'm getting nasty text messages with implications about my race, you are automatically deployed no matter what the discipline process ends up being. Is that correct?
Yeah, again, we do not discipline in our office, but we guide them through the protocols. And so what that reference would be generate a serious incident with regards to discrimination. And then we would get involved and we would pull together. And sometimes, as you know, we'd huddle together to make sure that we are supporting the student first and making sure they have the different resources and supports, let's say from Rochelle Rubin's office and team. And then we would look at the disciplinary action after investigation. And sometimes if that investigation involves police, if it's at the criminal level, then we will support the student and work with the police to determine next steps. And if they say we're not going to take this, then the school gets involved and we'll walk them through and support them with some different, decisions that need to be made.
Okay. I think the concerns that I've been hearing from the community have been about the fact that, so for example, level 1 disciplinary action is very, very mild, doesn't even involve talking to the parents about the situation. And so we don't feel like that's an appropriate response to something along these lines. So I'm just looking for consistency in the guidance of the ability to accelerate you don't have to start at step 1 if you participate in this type of behavior.
Right. And again, it's going to be, and others can jump in, but it's going to be based on the situation, and it's going to be based on disruption level. So I think I mentioned to this committee in the past when we were talking about some of these things that, if a student is scribbling on the back of their notepad something inappropriate along the lines of hate, that's different from if they painted it on the school wall. And so there's certainly going to be a different level of disruption and impact. And so that's what we're going to be able to help walk a bunch of different teams and people through to make sure we're handling this correctly, and including Ed Clark's office, because the security supervisor will be involved in this, and their liaison with police is outstanding. So we want to make sure that we're consistent in that part of it for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Daca?
I just wanted to say thank you for the work that has been done. I remember when the bullying form came to us from the state that we had to fill it out, but there were no directions as to what to do after the form came out. So I'm really glad to see that you have a communication plan and that you've named a team that's going to be involved in this and some activities that would go with this, because you just can't say, okay, it was bullying and we've recorded it and that's it. So I have to thank you for doing that. And about the symbols, the gang symbols, Pat brings up a good point, and it is frightening. If you know that certain colors that people wear, or scarves around the legs, or socks up, or pants up and down, the kids do know what that means, and it is intimidating. And the last thing I want to talk about are these symbols that would be used in the classroom for teaching purposes. That really is not new to us, because we know that we have to balance whatever it is that we're teaching about, the pros and the cons. So this works really well with what has been going on, but it is more specific. And I think people will appreciate, staff will appreciate having the information that you pulled together.
Mr. Asante?
Yeah, I don't have any questions, but thank you for the presentation and the plan to implement it. I think I really enjoy how the focus is more restorative justice, in the sense that, you know, it's you using these moments as a teaching moment rather than kind of scolding students away from learning why what they did or what they said or whatever symbol they displayed was wrong. I guess my one concern that did pop up was around the climate questionnaire. And I know schools have done this in the past, but like how effective are they in actually getting a sense of, you know, how students feel? I think, you know, oftentimes, you know, maybe people don't fully express all their opinions in a questionnaire or in a survey like this. And so, and that's like not necessarily a question that needs to be answered now, but just like thinking about when you are implementing that questionnaire and implementing that survey, finding a way to ensure people feel comfortable actually sharing their opinions and that it is effective in accomplishing the, you know, the goals that you have with preventative actions. But other than that, just thank you for that presentation and thank you for this work.
You know, I think this policy is a good policy as we've drafted it, and I appreciate Ms. Dixon offering the new business item. I do think that, though, the conversation with students is really important about the symbols of hate, because, you know, we have gone through a rash of swastikas etched into desks and bathrooms, and other hateful language, and golden ticket with the N-word that was distributed in a school, and it is hurtful, disruptive. And not only just the punitive part is important, but also the educational piece for everyone. And, you know, I know there also have been, you know, threats or intimidation of our students about sexual orientation. So making it an educational, proactive prevention piece, and then having a range of discipline, because the doodling in a notebook is far different than the graffiti on a school wall, you know, in terms of what it does to the community and to individuals. Ms. Williams, have you?
Yes, so I can share that a couple of things. We can absolutely make the regulation JHGRA, which is regarding gangs activity or other similar destructive or legal group behavior prevention, a related entry in the policy ACA. Also wanted to highlight that the language I was thinking was in that JHGRA is actually in JFARA, which speaks to dress, the prohibition of dress specifically associated with gangs. So that's where we do address that language, that attire or symbols or so forth are not permitted in the schools.
I mean, I was also thinking, you know, how people in some neighborhoods, there's tagging of street signs and et cetera. You know, I was thinking about the MS-13 tagging. Anyway, you know, maybe in the education piece with our staff, I just feel that it needs to be also considered through that process. So yes, I would like to see that as a related entry in there.
Sure, we'll make sure that happens.
And Mr. Davis, I don't know with your group, just also, I mean, prior to the pandemic, we had seen the rise of some gang activity in the county, and again, as we had in the late 90s. So I think it's something that bears watching in terms of disruption and intimidation in the community. So, well, I look forward to bringing this forward to the full board. Possibly when we have the discussion, it would be fruitful for them to see the this presentation as a companion piece. So thank you all for joining us. And I know some of you have meetings to go to. Ms. Williams, next.
Next, am I on? Okay. The next item on the agenda is a discussion of a framework, a draft framework for the revision of policy FFA, naming of school facilities. So the board has requested a review of policy FFA. Of particular interest is stakeholder engagement in the policy of naming or renaming facilities or parts of facilities. And at this time, Dr. Aranza-Labat, as well as Mr. Everett Davis, will remain with us. Will share with you some initial thinking on this topic and sort of a framework for the work that we will be continuing over the next few months. Dr. Labat, or Mr. Davis, I'm sorry, I'm not sure who's going first. Mr.
Yeah,
Davis.
I'll start us off. Thank you, Ms. Williams. So again, good afternoon, and thank you for the collaboration with Dr. Labat, with Ms. Williams, and also with Ms. Davis as well, for a topic that definitely is one with lots of energy, not just in our system, but in other systems which we have used to benchmark to support our work. So if we could bring up the presentation, please. We can go to the next slide. So why are we undertaking the revision at this time? The problem that we are trying to solve, a couple of pieces. The policy as it currently exists, the procedures were not codified for naming. There were inconsistencies that existed around the naming of facilities and parts of facilities. There was a lack of clarity, which we are trying to address, for processes and stakeholder engagement. And there was also a need for equitable and transparent practices. And as we talk about equity being a core value of our system, to ensure that that transcends in all of the work that we do. What is it that we hope to achieve, or our goals for the revision? Clarity and consistency around the process for naming of our facilities or parts of facilities, and also engaging a diverse stakeholder group in the process, or groups in this process, including groups that represent the demographic of the targeted or impacted community. I think that's extremely important to say. And again, when we talk about equity as one of our core values, something that we must keep in mind, as well as a transparent and equitable process, ensuring that it is very clear as to how one can be a part of the process and support the process as well. We can go to the next slide. And at this time, I will turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Labat.
Thank you, Mr. Davis, and good afternoon, board members and others. So this has been a rich discussion and a rich process that we began a couple of years ago when the board handed us a resolution in its wisdom to begin looking at the names of our facilities. And as Mr. Davis highlighted, as we look at our policies and regs, there were some inconsistencies. So the work that we have already begun and are continuing to do is really grounded in an alignment of those policies, the language, aligning them to national standards, aligning the board policies and regulations. And because there are these inconsistencies and gaps in the language, we wanted to make sure that those operational practices that we have been using, that we are consistently codifying those across these bodies of work as they impact the naming and renaming of school facilities. One of the avenues that has really been important and it really has been elevated by our communities and by our staff is that it's important that we fully engage all of our stakeholders and engage diverse perspectives. And we do have some models that we can look to. We have neighboring districts that have been engaging in this process. So we've begun the process of benchmarking some of the best practices with districts that are similar to ours in size and demographics, and other districts that are members of the large countywide and suburban district consortium. There are about 10 districts that we've looked at, including Baltimore County, Charlotte-Mecklenburg, Fairfax, as we all know, has been engaged in this process and successfully gone through the naming. And then some counties that are further away, but again, meeting those criteria around size and demographics. And so we're looking at those districts to look at what is the language, what are the processes, how do they engage their stakeholders, the parents, members of the community, students and staff in the process so that we can bring some consistency and clarity with what we have in place. And I mentioned we have language, we have a policy, we have regs, but again, they've not been as specific. And so, you know, in the previous conversation, there was Ms. Mondrowski brought up some variability. So we want to minimize the opportunity for that. So whether it's a building being named or a part of a building being named or renamed, that we're using the same type of processes to bring that consistency. And then we also want to make sure that as well as we have endeavored to make sure all of our communities are involved, we do always look to ways we can improve. And so we recognize that there have been some structural and institutional barriers to making this as transparent a process, or the perception that it has not been transparent. So this work, this framework in looking at the revisions is really going to help us to look at those, to illuminate those and to address that so that we do have a very clear, equitable and transparent process that our community has trust and faith that we are engaging them in the process. Along the way, I think that's the last slide, but I did want to mention that we have involved many offices in this process. We've had the directors in the Office of Teaching, Learning, and School, Mr. Davis and others in Student Family Support and Engagement have been involved. The Equity Unit has been involved in helping us to look at some of the language in the process. We've reached out to members of the community around how do we partner, communications, and how do we make sure we're reaching out to the diverse areas of our communities. Budget, because, you know, we want to make sure as we're doing something with this policy around naming buildings and renaming, that is also an aspect of it, is the funding of that. And what types of ways do we honor the legacy of buildings? And so these are the things we want to bring forward in this revision of the policy so that we are bringing and living to the expectations of the board and your vision and language around equity. Any questions?
So as someone who's been on the board 23 years and been involved with a lot of names, it's a very short policy that we have, but we have other policies related to community engagement. I want to say, one, there is no national standard about this. And I think every community in the DC area that has been engaged in renaming of schools or new names for new schools, it's in some cases it's very smooth and there's no passion or and animosity involved. And then in other circumstances, there is a great deal of passion and a great deal of anger over renaming. I think, though, one thing I have to say, the issue about naming of parts of buildings, I think that in the past, there have been some principals who may not have checked the policy and the regs about to make sure that things are equitably done or handled the way they're intended to be. I don't want to place the blame, and I'm not going to sing, but we've been surprised when we've gone to some, they named that library and it never, who was involved in this process. And so, and right now, last summer, there was a lot of energy for us to rename some high schools in the county, some schools, and there was a new business item. And I understand, the pandemic has overshadowed everything, but that in that resolution on engaging the community, we were attempting to do the very thing, to reach out, to cast a wide net in communities to look at the issue about renaming. Anyway, my point is there is no one perfect policy sitting out there, because as I view what has happened in Fairfax and Arlington and others in the DC area, it's not all smooth sailing. And in fact, it is. We recently got an email, and I guess somebody thought we were the Montgomery, Alabama school board because they were criticizing us for renaming Jefferson Davis High School in Alabama. And I was when I thought, we don't have Jefferson Davis. Some communities we've had very active and lively participation, and then others, it's been having to go back out to get that engagement. But ultimately, the final decision, whenever we make this policy, I believe still rests with the Board of Education. So I look forward to seeing your review of policies and having a discussion about various policies. And I wholeheartedly believe the community needs to be involved. But I guess the only other thing I will add is that I still believe in the naming of a building. We should have it for a person who has passed, because there is nothing more embarrassing than, when others are advocating for other names and that living individual is there. And we also need to make sure we have full vetting and due diligence on any and all names. I don't know whether my colleagues, Ms. Mondrowski, I'll start with you. Do you have any comments?
I'm good. Yeah, no, you pretty much said it also. Thank you.
Dr. Daka?
No, you covered all of the things we're concerned about, and you remind us of some of the things that have come through the email about our namings and not unnaming.
Mr. Asante?
Yeah, no, I have no comments either.
Okay. Anything else on this one? We will have further discussion in the fall. and a follow-up on the processing on that the outstanding new business item about supporting principals in their local schools to gather municipalities, alumni, PTA, staff, et cetera, in having a discussion whether those schools that were specifically called out, whether there was interest in renaming. Okay, Ms. Williams?
Before we finish that, Mrs. O'Neill, I know that we conversation about the timing of the response to the resolutions for the specific schools. We'd had some conversation about that.
And certainly, probably that if we are considering revising this policy, I think that the focus of all of our efforts right now and our energies should be directed at reopening of schools fully and getting all kids back in school and recovering from this past year. So, I personally, I guess we would need to have the board take action to delay that. But I would think that should begin this probably not until the fall. I would be okay in delaying action on that. I don't want it to fall off the radar screen because, it was a full board action and there was quite a bit of energy at one point. But, also looking at what's on principals' plates, I don't know whether my colleagues share with me my opinion that we should probably put it off until the fall. I think we had said it should be by this summer. Is that correct? I don't really remember.
That's my recollection.
Yeah.
So I would think that we should wait until the fall, and let people work on getting everybody back into a normal existence.
I agree.
I agree too.
So should Ms. Webb or Ms. Seabrook, should we take a resolution to the board asking that, recommending that it be delayed?
Yep, we can draft something.
Okay, so the committee is in agreement that we should ask that it be delayed until, school is reopened. Okay. All right. We are now to the sexual harassment policies.
Yes.
Public comments.
Yes. So the first one that we'll talk about is policy ACF, sexual harassment, which is being renamed sexual misconduct and sexual harassment of students. It was out for public comment from April 20th through May 18th. We received 5 comments from the public, and we received them from students, staff, not staff, but students, parents, as well as members of the community. And some of the concerns that were expressed in the comments related to transparency and uniformity in investigation procedures, harassment or misconduct that takes place off of MCPS property. There was a request for information regarding addressing conduct that is incurred regarding students who are placed in private schools, and concern about offensive conduct, including name calling. So a good bit of that is outside of the context of the policy, although I do have some edits that I will share relevant to that. And there are responses in the summary of comments that you have that are available to the comment public that address some of the concerns that were addressed in the comments. So the edits that staff is recommending include just 2 main areas. One is on page 10 of the policy, where we added a specific reference to the email Dropbox, where anyone, students, staff, can submit a complaint or a concern. So in response to the concerns about the access and knowing how to make such reports. We've added that language to the policy. And then we've added some additional references on page 20 of the policy in related sources that address and again, this is in response to some comments, our ability to hire, or the requirement that we not hire persons who have a criminal history involving sexual conduct is required by law. So we made sure that that's referenced there, and as well as the laws that address our requirements for doing the research on a staff member's background before we hire them, as well as the superintendent's ability to request the revocation of a certificated employee, make that request from the Maryland State Department of Education, so that we more fully explain here the requirements with respect to hiring, as well as when a person is no longer in our employment and we are requesting that their certificate be revoked so they cannot continue in that capacity in another location. So in just a moment, Mr. Edmondson is going to provide for you some more information about the processes for reporting and investigating complaints of bullying and harassment. Before we have Mr. Edmondson to speak, I just wanted to know if there were any questions about the changes to the policy.
Does anyone have any questions, comments? I think that when we had this conversation at the full board, a big focus had been on, how do students know where to report and how to report? And, if memory serves me, that was a major focus at the table. So, Mr. Edmondson, I guess we pass it off to you.
Sure. So this is an informal presentation. I do not have slides. I just wanted to set some context that back in the fall, changes came to the policy, and the addition of the ACI policy because of one of the reasons was multiple social media allegations of sexual misconduct and sexual assault, as you're aware. We also had some changes in the federal regulations with regards to Title IX, and Danielle is here to help us with questions on that, of course. If you recall, we had the Let's Talk Respect. Mr. Asante was influential in increasing the awareness about that event, which was a great turnout for our students and for our communities. Going over what you just said, here's how to recognize these things, here's how to report these things, the multiple ways in which to report, and also led us to a student module, which we called the Culture of Respect module. It was a 30-minute asynchronous training for all students that we provided in grades 6 through 12. That would be, if everyone took it, we'd have 86,000 students who took the module. We had about a 50% return rate. We had about 42,000 students who did complete it. We did not make it mandatory. We did not make it a requirement for promotion or graduation. We did offer, as I think one of the board members had mentioned, either in this group or in the larger group, about SSL hours, and we did that. And so we had, again, thousands of students who took advantage of the SSL hours with regards to that work. From that, and I'm going to tie in what we talked about 45 minutes ago, Mr. Asante. From that module, we received a significant amount of data in regards to student voice and student perception. And that data we have organized, and that data was, it included questions and a questionnaire I think you mentioned about, on a scale of 1 to 5, hate or hate bias incidents is a problem of my school. On a scale of 1 to 5, sexual misconduct, sexual harassment, Title IX issues are a problem at my school. Bullying is a problem, hazing, all of the different things that we included in that Culture of Respect module. And we have organized that data. We have met with the Office of Teaching, Learning in Schools, we've met with the associates and the chief and the directors, and we've compiled that data, and we are going to be providing our schools with that data so that they can look at it as an instructional leadership team this summer. And as OTLS is right now reworking and finalizing their school improvement plans, this work with regards to culture and climate will be a part of their school improvement plan for the fall. And so they'll be looking at this data in order to complete that section of the school improvement plan. Here's what we're learning from our students from some of this data, as well as other pieces of information, not just from the module, but we're going to be implementing a plan for school improvement along the lines of culture and climate within our school. And so you had mentioned when we were presenting the hate symbols and the hate bias pieces about looking at that questionnaire, that community data from our students. And so we have that data and we will provide it to our schools. But I think one of the board meetings, I believe it was April, where we were talking about recognizing reporting. We also will be taking all of our school-based administrators through a required training this summer. It will be an enhanced training from what they will receive through the compliance. We all on the screen have taken the compliance training on bullying and sexual harassment, bullying and harassment, including sexual harassment. We will take it again this summer for the next school year, but we're going to provide an enhanced training for our school administrators, principals, assistant principals, intern, ASAs, and digging in deeper on implications for school leadership and what does this mean as a school leader? How do I need to have conversations with my counselors, with my students, and how do I need to respond in a consistent manner with regards to what we're presenting, ACF and ACI. And so I've been working, not just me, but we've been working very closely with Michael Simmons' office, because if it involves an employee, that's where ACI comes in. We're really excited about, like I said, schools greenlighting this training so that we can ensure that everybody is on the same page with the reporting aspect of this. But that's what the updates that I wanted to give you with regards to that context, and then we can go from there.
Mr. Asante, do you have anything?
I was just going to say thank you for that context and background, and I'm glad that that data is being used and that students are responding to these surveys and questionnaires.
Ms. Bondrowski?
No, I just will also thank you for the work on this. It's so important, and seems like you've really done a good job of focusing on some of the issues and concerns that we did here, particularly through social media and whatnot. So thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Daka?
Yes, thank you for your clarity and for the kind of work that you put in on this. And I just wanted to know, all members of the wellness committee should be involved in this. Some of them already are, you've already named them, but there may be some other members that should be involved.
Excellent. And counselors who are lead on the wellness committees as well. Just to remind you, we did provide enhanced training last summer for all of our school-based critical staff. That included counselors, school psychologists, bilingual assessment team leaders, all of the critical staff who work with our students and provide these services. We took them all through more than 800 MCPS employees through similar training in collaboration with Stephanie Williams and OGC last summer. And so we're actually going to be taking some of that scenario-based discussion from that, and we'll be infusing it into the school administrator training as well. But we will include the information for the wellness committees for sure. But thank you, Dr. Daka.
I still firmly believe that we just need to constantly reinforce with students, one, to identify that they've been harassed, sexually harassed, and to how to report. And it's okay to report. You should report. Every time I look at the employee sexual harassment, or any of the harassment reports, I really believe that it is underreported. And I think that constantly elevating it so that individuals, whether it's sexual harassment or bullying of any other nature, so that everyone feels comfortable and knowledgeable about how to report it and safe.
We're working on the app. I want you to know that the app, we're closer. We did get approved for the grant. Ed Clark's team and is working with us as well as our partners in technology. And we brought in our student leadership into this as well. So we have several students who are extremely savvy with the computer and know what this, imagine that, right? But extremely savvy and knowing what it should look like for a student to have an application on their phone. And so we are getting closer to that work, and we will provide you with an update in some form when we get to the final finish line with that.
Okay, so ACI.
Yes, thank you. The next policy is policy ACI, sexual harassment of MCPS employees. This too was out for public comment April 20th to May 18th. We only received one comment in respect to this policy, and that question, the comments addressed cameras in classrooms, as well as the continued employment of individuals suspected or found guilty of sex offenses. So the cameras in classrooms, we do not have cameras in our classrooms because we have, because of privacy issues and related to educational records, we consider the classroom sort of the sacred space for instruction. But the cameras, as you know, are elsewhere throughout the building in the more public spaces. And the commenter's comment has been responded to in the document that you have and is publicly available. However, in response to the comment to this policy, as well as the ones we just discussed, we added the same references about our inability to hire persons who have a criminal history of sexual conduct, as well as our requirements for the background checks and before they're hired, and the level of detail that's involved in the background checks. We fondly call it HB 486. You may be familiar, but anyway, the in-depth research that's required in checking with prior employers of our employees before anyone can be hired that will have direct contact with students. So we made sure that we reference that in the policy, as well as mentioned in the just referenced in ACF, I talked to you about in ACF, in which the superintendent has the authority to request the revocation of a certificated person if they have been found to be involved with sexual misconduct with a student. So we thought it would be helpful to highlight those requirements as related entries. There are, and we also made references to JHC and JHCRA, the policies for regulation related to child abuse. So those are the only edits that we are proposing today.
Okay.
And Mrs. Simmons is here. Mrs. Simmons is here. She deals directly with matters of this nature that arise with respect to employees. So I don't know if she wants to provide any comments, but she's certainly available to answer your questions.
Mrs. Simmons, go right ahead.
I just wanted to lay out the context by which we investigate those particular cases. Any individual who is there's an allegation of alleged abuse, sex or physical with a student, those individuals are immediately placed on leave, and CPS and or SVID would investigate. As soon as they've concluded their investigation, we then investigate and make a determination based on our own regulations, whether or not they will be terminated. And ultimately, following a Loudermill hearing, those individuals the superintendent would then recommend to the board that they be terminated. And then it follows the board process from there.
Ms. Mondrowski?
I'm good. I'm fine.
Dr. Daka?
I'm okay.
Mr. Asante?
I'm okay as well.
Okay. So ACF and ACI will come to the full board for final approval. Okay, Ms. Williams, do you have anything else for the good of the order?
Thank you. No, I have nothing further.
Okay. Mr. Asante?
Just a quick thing. I think one of the public comments mentioned this kind of, but I know some people were, and I think you talked about this at a previous meeting too, so just to like restate it and clarify it again, but I know some people were wondering why like sexual misconduct and bullying and harassment were placed together on the same form, but that's because of a federal regulation, correct? Or a state regulation or something like that?
The Maryland state regulation. Actually, the MSDE provides the form. They provide a template for the form. We modify it slightly to put the contact information and so forth that's relevant to MCPS, a few other MCPS specific tweaks, but they provide the template for the form for us, and they are combined on that form.
All right. Thank you for clarifying. I still get questions about that, so I just wanted to make sure.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. I look forward to the policies coming forward to the full board and to the naming coming back to us after you've completed your canvassing, your research across districts. So thank you all. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.